If you bear with me, I'd like to start with a brief illustration. And in this part of the country, we know Golden Corral to be a buffet restaurant. So just stay with me. I feel like every classroom in America and life in general is like a Golden Corral. Hang in there. I'm going to tell you how I roll at a Golden Corral. There will be 4 plates. The first plate will be the salad plate. Tower of lettuce, dripping with dressing, cheese, bacon, croutons, plate number 1. Plate number 2 will have several proteins, all of the ones that I like. Lots of starches, especially mac and cheese, and then I'm gonna try one vegetable that I've never tried before because I can. Plate number 3 will have several pastries, as many as I can possibly fit on the plate. And notice that I said there will be 4, because at Golden Corral, there's a chocolate fountain. So there will be ice cream that I will drag under the chocolate fountain. So if every classroom in America is like a Golden Corral, you really get to decide what you get to take away from every experience. So if you leave a classroom with 2 chicken fingers and a couple French fries, that's on you, boo. That is the decision that you have made. Because you always take the good things and the bad things and you put them all together and you can have the best experience that you can possibly have. So being a dad and a teacher has opened my eyes up to so many possibilities about learning how kids develop and also learning how to handle lots of situations in my own personal life. So I'll tell you a quick story about when my daughter was born. She's my oldest, and I had a lot of knowledge about babies. So I felt very prepared. So we get home, and my wife was super exhausted, and I said, "You go to sleep, I got it." So she goes to the bedroom, and she closes the door, and the second she closes the door, my daughter starts to cry. And I said, "I got this, I got it." So I did everything I'd read to do. I rocked her, I swaddled her, I gave her a bottle, I gave her a pacifier, and she cried and cried and cried and cried. And there's this tension that starts to build up because I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." And I didn't want to wake up my wife, so I got to this point where I just got so frustrated and so sad that I didn't know what to do that I started crying. So she and I just cried together. But it was in that moment, and I have to tell you this, so when my wife got up the next day, it was like full confession time. I broke out and I was like, "I'm so sorry, I let the baby cry for hours." But I learned something really important in that moment, and that is my thought process before I had a child was that children come here like a little ball of clay, and I get to mold and shape them into what I want them to be. But the truth is, everybody comes here with your own little personality. It's already there. It's our job as parents and teachers to kind of help steer that energy into the right direction. I want you to keep that in mind as I go to this next part here. So when I was thinking about that night and understanding that she came here with her own little personality, I had a lot of content, but I really didn't understand the person and the process. So I've come to understand that there's a difference between wisdom and intelligence, and a lot of us are very intelligent. We can collect a lot of knowledge and we try to apply it to certain situations and we use our deductive reasoning and we think we're very smart. But wisdom actually comes through doing those certain things. So if you think you're very intelligent, just be careful because you may not be as wise as you think you are. So this whole concept of understanding process, I teach music for my living, and the process of becoming a musician is just full of success and failure. It's an endless cycle of success and failure. And before I get into the main part of my conversation, I have to remind you that most of us appreciate sunny days because at some point in time there's been a rainy day. And if there are always sunny days, rainy days will completely destroy you because you don't know what to do. And this whole concept of process is how I'd like for you to think when you have to be conscious of yourself and your journey through life, that everything's not going to be sunshine and rainbows all the time. And as a teacher, I think a lot about making my classroom a place where people can understand that failure is a part of the process. And I have to be very poignant to tell you that when did it become that failure is this thing that's an indictment on who you are? It's not just a tool to help you to get better. Can you think back to the times when you started to learn how to walk? You took a step and then you fall down, and there are people around you that encourage you to do it again. So you stand up and you take 2 more steps, and then you take a really terrible fall. And in the time we live in right now, people videotape that. So like years later, they show it to everybody, and you're like, hilariously laughing at it. But just really think about it. When a baby falls and they're learning how to walk, we don't make that an indictment on who they are. It's just a part of the process, and we encourage them the whole way until they do it so many times that they get better at it, and they get better at it, and they get better at it. So I want you to keep that in mind as we keep going. So as a musician, the only way you can learn how to do something is by doing it. And then the only way you learn how to do it better is to do it often. You just do it again and again and again. Really realizing that every time you make a mistake, it's not an indictment on who you are, it's an opportunity for you to gain information to get better. Unfortunately, we live in a society where no one wants to make a mistake anymore. I watch lots of high school kids come into my room every day, so afraid to make a mistake, when they don't even realize that failure is the shortcut to success. So if you really want to learn how to do something well, sometimes you just got to mess it up one good time. And then you can learn how to do it better. I think that music and athletics, in a way, are some of those places that haven't really been touched by technology. They're things that can aid you, but they really can't do the work for you. So this whole process of learning the importance of celebrating success and then evaluating failure as a part of the process, it helps you to become a little bit more whole, because like I said, you can't appreciate sunny days unless there's a little bit of rain. So in order to help young people become better, there has to be a growth mindset when it comes to failure. So this lady named Carol Dweck wrote this really great book about mindsets, and I'll just briefly give you an understanding. She says that people who have fixed mindsets are people who have kind of said to themselves that there's no way to change yourself, or there are things that you just have to accept about yourself. And then the growth mindset says that those possibilities are endless. And I'd like to encourage all of you today to start thinking about yourself that way as well when it comes to failure. We have to say to ourselves at some point in time, we're going to mess up. And if you choose to make teaching your career, or if you choose to rear a child, then you have to make those conditions favorable to celebrate the successes and to encourage in moments of failure, because those are things that are going to happen throughout the rest of a person's life. There's this little activity I'd like for you all to do with me. Can you do this with me? So if you look up at the sky and you point to the sky, and I'd like for you to make a clockwise circle in the sky. And for those of you who don't have digital, or who have digital watches, that should go around to your right and then over to the left. So if you make a clockwise circle in the sky and you bring it down towards your eyes, and then you bring it down below your eyes and you look at it, what did you notice about the circle? Many of you will notice that it looks different than the way you first looked at it. And the only thing that changed was your perspective. So a lot of times when it comes to failure, you just have to change the way you think about it. Instead of thinking automatically that failure is an indictment of who you are, just understand that in order to do something, you just have to do it, and you have to do it often. And anytime it doesn't work out the way that you thought it should, you get an opportunity to completely change the way that you think about it. And failure shouldn't be this thing that cripples us, but in a way, failure should be this thing that just gives you this information that can help set you up for more success later. When you think about all these famous people that have done all these really awesome things, a lot of them suffered a lot of failure before they got to that one thing that was really great. And really, that's just life. So don't be afraid to try. I also have a lot of teenagers that come through my classroom that are so afraid to try that they rather cut a corner than actually fail. When, like I said before, failure is the shortcut to success. So if you really want to learn how to do something better, you just have to mess it up one good time. So I'll just ask all of you tonight to not allow fear to be that thing that causes you to cut that corner, but just try and do your absolute best. And hopefully there are going to be people around you that will provide you a safe space to just mess up. And that they'll be the same ones that will encourage you to just try again. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is that you will be kind to yourself. And that anytime you make a mistake, you can take a deep breath and remember every time as a child you fell down, someone encouraged you to get up until you learn how to do it better. So be kind to yourself. And just understand that failure is not an indictment on who you are. It's just a tool to get better. Thank you so much.